I welcome all of you to IBM TV and to this show, which is Dr. Dhawan's live chat, and I'm your host, Dr. Sanjay Dhawan. I'm an eye surgeon practicing in New Delhi. The live chat is a show which talks about any and all aspects of life, any subject, anything that concerns the life or it improves its quality is what we will be talking about. How to plan for it, how to prepare for it. So we'll be talking about all of this. Looking forward to seeing all of you every Friday night, 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Indian time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste. Namaste. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to wherever you are, to Dr. Dhawan's live chat. Today we have a very, very interesting topic, love for cars. We love cars. Young boys, when they're small, 5 years old, 4 years with that, they make their own collection and they grow up. However, this love continues with them till the time they're old or very old, as long as they're alive. I think boys are always fascinated by cars. So we decided, why not talk about this fascinating subject, And not just boys, these days, big girls also are very fond of cars. So I have three boys on my show, three little boys on my show, and who are, crazy about cars, about motorbikes, about fitness. So they have all similar interests, So let me call them one by one. Dr. Shri Ganesh, my friend from Bengaluru. He's a very senior eye surgeon. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Sanjay. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Shri Ganesh. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me to the show and to speak
Pleasure to
about
have you here.
One of my hobbies and passions.
Yes. And next is another little boy, Dr. Cyres Mehta from Mumbai. He's also a senior eye surgeon. And again, passionate lover of automobiles, cars, bikes, and fitness. Hi, Cyrus, how are you doing?
Hi, Sanjay. Happy to be here and be with you and Shri today.
Great. And third is, my friend from Delhi, Shiv Singh, another guy who's into, cars, superbikes, and fitness, and rock climbing, hiking, and mountaineering, So again, welcome to the show, Shiv. How are you doing?
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you so much. Shri Ganesh, Cyres, good to see you.
Nice
the presence of all doctors, it's scary.
Yes, somehow. Shiv, you are never scared of anybody,
Well, to be honest, in front of so many doctors, it's either at the operating table or you have something in common. And I'm glad it's the latter than anything else.
Yeah. So very interestingly, all three of you have got very similar interests, cars, motorbikes, fitness, And I think that's a very, very common thing amongst boys. They keep growing up. Actually, they keep growing older. Their cars grow bigger, but their hearts remain that small, boyish one. Why do you love cars? Why is this the love for cars? Shri Ganesh, let me start with you.
I think we never grew up. All of us are still in our teens because this is what we enjoy in our teens, the bikes, the fitness. And I think this is something that we have not got over. So it's good to be young at heart and young in our hobbies and continue to do the things that you love and like. Because sometimes
that's true. I know. Yeah.
There are a lot of
the child in us, the boy in us stays alive.
Yes. Because once you reach a particular status or in society or in life, you are a well-known surgeon, then you are expected to behave in a certain way. And not ride a bike, and there's a lot of resistance from the family that no, you're not going to ride a bike because what happens if you have an accident? Be responsible. Yeah, so these are the questions that come up, and for years I was not allowed to have a bike, and then I said, this is something I like doing. And then I started riding. Of course, I think for Cyrus, it's always been his passion, and he never gave up riding bikes from when he was a teen.
You know what I feel
So
is
Cyrus,
that the
how about
person
your
you
love
are,
for cars?
guys, I think the person that you are when you are 16 or 17 years old is the person you're always going to be. So if you like going to the gym, you're going to be going to the gym when you're 40, 50, 60 years old also. If you always looked at those fast cars and said, one day when I make a little bit of money, right now I may be completely broke, but one day when I make a little bit of money, I'm going to buy that car. And you always look forward to that. And I was always a speed junkie. It was not so much car or bike, it was how fast you can go. And the only thing that we had was that, really furniture Fiat, yeah, that used to be there. And because there was no money, so there wasn't much option. But I used to go as fast as I could in that Fiat. So the only way you can go over 100 in a Fiat is to go downhill. So you go and find the road that goes downhill and then go on going faster and faster. The whole car will be shaking like that, will be doing 120. Okay. And then the first bike I bought was a TVS Scooty when I was in Belgaum. And Belgaum had a lot of these hills around. And so I used to go downhill at 80 on a Scooty. And the whole bike used to be vibrating like that. I thought the wheels will fall off. Yeah.
So Shiv, what about you? How did your love of cars started?
This pretty early, Sanjay. To be honest, I think it's growing up, kids. All those, we used to all have those magnet cars and push them backwards, and they'll thrust forward, and so the magnetic pull with cars or bikes always remain, and it's something that lured you always. And as Cyrus says, once you had the money, this is the first thing you wanted to do was go in for something that you really enjoy. So so this is something that's always prompted me to look forward.
Shivraj, aren't you the same guy that you were when you were 16 years old? So we end up doing the same stuff,
Pretty much, yeah.
If you wanted to chase women when we were 16 years old, now you'll be doing that when you're 50 years old also. If you want to ride, that fast car, believe me, you'll be doing that. So people don't really change. That's the whole issue.
True.
That's very true. I mean, I still feel as foolish as I was when I was a teenager. So inwardly we all feel the same. We all think the same. And outwardly we, of course, may have, grown up and grown older, but inside it is the same old child which is alive.
Yeah,
so
and
actually, what are the cars?
As a surgeon, certain things you can't be seen to be doing, even though we're doing it anyway. But you can't be seen to be doing it. If you're a businessman, it's okay to do all that stuff. Sure. But as a surgeon, no, you have to pretend to be like holier than thou and above everything. That's the whole issue.
But I believe the times are changing now. I know there are a lot of people who are breaking the stereotype. And I myself believe in breaking this, and I think all of us are trying to break the stereotype and break that image and tell the world that we are human first, and then the doctors. Sure. So Shri, what are your favorite cars? What are the cars that you have, and which is the best car you have driven so far?
Right now, I own an ML63 AMG, which is an SUV. It's a beast of a vehicle, a V8, and that is something which is good for Indian roads because it's got good clearance and you can go wherever you want a 4-wheel drive. Then I also have a Jag F-Type R, which is basically a car for the track, and it goes very fast. It's a 2-seater, and that's something which I enjoy driving because I enjoy the sound. It makes this crackling sound when you shift gears, and then that actually gives you a thrill, and that's something that I really like. But I can't take it on those roads which have speed breakers, because most of the speed breakers, they touch the bottom. So that's a problem with having fast cars in India, because roads are not good enough. And I have a convertible. I have an SLK 350, and so it's nice on when the weather is nice in Bangalore. It's nice to put the top down and then drive. You feel the wind on your face, and it's a nice feeling. So that's these are the 3 cars which I have, and I enjoy driving now.
There's some comments coming in, from a big girl who says that boys certainly don't grow up, and she's also asking that how fast can you go?
How fast have I driven? I think I have
Question from
touched. I have touched
yes.
260 kilometers per hour. But
Okay.
yeah, I have a road called the Nice Road. So when it was being constructed, a part of it was kind of closed off, so there was no traffic. So then I had my BMW 5 Series, which was an inline six, and then I remember having touched 260, and then I ran out of the road, so I had to slow down. But then I also like, so that's the problem. You
So
can you
Cyrus,
can
what
run
cars
out
do
of
you
road.
have? And yeah,
So,
Cyrus, what cars
I'm a
have you
poor
had,
guy.
and which has been
Compared to
your
you,
first favorite
Ganesh,
car?
I'm a really poor guy. So I only have one decent car right now. So I have a Audi RS7, and the car is stage two, which means it is running a bigger injectors, larger intercooler, a straight system, and a stage two flash. So basically, the car is supposedly doing 650, 660 bhp. So it's four wheel drive. So you can put all the power down, and the car is doing probably 0 to 100 in 3 seconds or so. And it on our C link, even though we are not supposed to go more than 80 kilometers an hour, I've done 320 in the car many times. Even
Wow.
though you should not say all these things on the on public channels, you get arrested.
That's all right.
So
I'm sure it doesn't matter.
yeah, so that's the only fast car I have right now. I've driven a lot of fast cars. My brother-in-law has a Ferrari and a Lamborghini because when you do business, you make more money than when you're a doctor, and that's very obvious. And I was lucky enough to drive that Veyron of one of my patients in Dubai. So I
Nice.
drove that Veyron. It was quick, no doubt. But I think now the fastest car that you're going to get is that Tesla in ludicrous mode, which is going to do 1.8 and 1.9 seconds, which is like mental. I don't think
Yeah.
you can really go much faster. But you know what, Sri Ganesh here is right. I hardly ever drive that car anymore because of our bad road conditions. I am driving everywhere in my X540i because to otherwise all the time you're avoiding khadda traffic, pothole, and all kinds of things like that. So most of the time I just end up driving that SUV. And given another chance, I would have probably just bought a super SUV like a Urus or a ML63 or a X5M and not wasted money on a fast car. Because there's no way you can drive that fast car in the country. Otherwise, you have to take it to the racetrack and all that. And I have a bike for that.
Brilliant.
Good, great. Shiv, how about you? What cars have you had, and what car you really like to drive now? I know that you're a SUV kind of a person.
Yeah, I'm more of an SUV kind of person. Cars for me means more off-roading and getting into the hills and getting into nature and traveling. Pack my bags, throw in my my duffel bag, and just carry on for a couple of days, a week, 10 days, and nobody misses you. The family doesn't want you. You're happy to just get out of the way of everyone. So I have a Ford Endeavor, the 3.2 liter engine, and I have recently bought GLC 300 Mercedes. I'm happy with that as well. Both SUVs, again, great power, 4x4, so it does the job. And I don't need to think about exactly what Sri Ganesh and Cyrus said in terms of looking out for speed breakers. When you really buy high-end, powerful cars like these guys are talking about, you need to be really careful in terms of where you really need to think in terms of where you're headed, where you're going, and is the road going to give me the kind of thrill that I'm really looking for in terms of the car that I'm driving. So exactly as Cyrus said, either take it to the track for which he has a bike, or you're limited to your to the options that you have. So for that reason, I'm happy at driving SUVs. So I don't need to look at where I'm going, and since largely I'm more adventure based, I'm happy to just pack in my bags in SUV and just get out of the way.
So let's get to some basics about the cars for our audience sake, and which are of all audience of all types here. So what are the different types of cars which are there in terms of design, fuel, and other things? So how will you classify them? Shri
Cyrus, you want to take
Ganesh,
that?
why don't you?
I think now it
Shri?
is basically, yeah, it's basically going to be divided into electric cars and cars that run on fossil fuels. And this is going to be the big divide. And I think the electric vehicles are gaining more popularity because probably they are cheaper to own in the sense that maintenance is going to be cheaper to run, and they can be very fast. And they have a host of newer features, automatic drives, uh, auto parking, and all the other features which. And so I think most of these companies are going towards away from fossil fuels and towards electric vehicles or hydrogen-driven vehicles. So that's something that we are going to see. And I don't think I'm going to buy any other car right now. Which drives on gasoline. I think my next investment would be on an electric vehicle. So that's something I think that we should all think about.
So talking in terms of fuel, we of course we've had diesel for a long time, petrol, CNG, and electric. What is the difference in the way you would drive that car and the feel of the car and feel of the drive?
Yeah, the feel, of course, an electric car is very smooth, but it lacks the grunt, it lacks the noise, it lacks the thrill.
Hmm.
So in that way, I mean, the thrill that you get out of driving a V8 is totally different from an electric vehicle, because the electric vehicle is very smooth. You can hardly feel the engine. So you want to shift gears, you want to feel the engine, you want to be one with the car, you want to feel the road, and that's something that you get with these high-end machines. So that's something which we would probably miss in the future with all the electric vehicles.
Cyrus, in terms of car designs, and there are hatchbacks, sedans, there are sports cars and SUVs and all. What is the difference in the feel and the mechanics in these cars?
Yeah. So basically now most people think a car is like four doors and a boot and a hood, but it's not like that. And car manufacturers have always had different designs depending on what the car was meant to do. And hatchbacks are really useful because you can put the rear seat down and carry a lot of luggage around if you really need to. And if you're that outdoorsy type like Shivraj, then there's no use of buying all these high-end cars, and that Endeavor and that Fortuner will go places where all these other SUVs will just get stuck here or they'll break down. So it really depends what you want the vehicle for. If you want to go to a racetrack, then you need a two-seat sports car. I never bought a two-seat sports car because I have two kids who are complete petrol heads, and then how to fit everybody in two seats. So I'll show you. You come here. So one of them is 6 feet tall and one of them is 3 feet tall. So here they are. And so I can't fit. This is a giant and this is a midget. Now, all of them can't fit in two seats. Okay, now you all go.
Hey,
So
guys.
they can't fit two seats. So that's why I bought a 5-seat car. And that's why I'm not selling this. I get a lot of offers. Sell your RS7, I'll give you 80 lakhs, 90 lakhs. But the point is, what will I buy after that? I'm not going to buy another gasoline car. These are all old junk now. It's finished. Future is only electric. In 3-4 years, nobody will touch these cars. And for anyone hanging on to them, then you better sell it quickly because you won't get any money for it also later.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I
you're gonna-
experienced that. I experienced this
it's gonna
recently.
be electric. Everything is going to be electric. That Veyron that is there in the picture behind you, ordinary Tesla, top of the line Tesla will be far quicker than this car. 0 to 200, it will beat a Veyron traffic light to light very easily. New ones are so quick. And this is the infancy of electric technology. Imagine the internal combustion engine's been around for 100 years plus. And electric has been around for 10 years. Imagine after 10 years, the car made by Maruti will be doing 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. Because it's just an electric motor. Yeah. It's like a pankha. Put a bigger motor. You don't need great engineering expertise for that. Battery technology will improve to the point that the battery will last forever. And it will become like a mobile phone, become an appliance. Yeah. And we'll miss that changing gears and hearing that V8 burble and crackle and stuff like that will all be gone. The next generation, the kids who are 7, 8, 9 years old, will just never see that. By the time they're 18 years old, they'll be driving a car that probably drives itself. We are like a dying breed now. We are like dinosaurs.
So yes, you mentioned about the driverless car future, and won't that be really sad? That the cars becoming driverless. No, they'll not be cars anymore, I believe.
What do you think, Shivraj? I'm sure that SUV will negotiate tough terrain much better with technology.
Absolutely.
You won't have to drive it. Yeah, it will do everything by itself.
Exactly like Cyres said, you don't need to think. You just take the car and go, and you really don't need to think about it in terms of the terrain and everything. You're safer. So for the journey, that's it. Otherwise, the fast cars that both Ganesh and Cyres have, I mean, they're the phenomenal cars. There's no comparison. I mean, there are the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, and all the F1 cars and stuff, the Formula Ones that you want to take a look at to experience the G-force. I would still say, I mean, fine, the SUV takes all that fun for the terrain that you're heading out to, but the fun of a speed car, the thrill of that G-force, you got to have some of these supercars that both of them are talking about. So
imagine once it becomes driverless, I think the thrill of car actually will go away, because the thrill of the car is in driving it. So our love or passion for the car is in driving it. It's not in just looking at the machine or admiring the machine. So I think minus the if we don't not driving it, then there's no thrill left in it. So an automatic transmission gives you less thrill than manual one does. So, and if the automatic is also gone, if the car is driving on its own, then there'll not be any thrill. It'll just be a mode of transportation from place A to place B.
But it's got an advantage there, Sanjay. Even when you talk about doctors being very busy and hectic with work and 10 things to think about when they get to the hospitals, they'll probably be better off with an electric automatic car in terms of not having to deal with traffic, can focus on the work at hand, get to the hospital, get the job done.
Well, we have drivers employed for that purpose, give employment to somebody.
But you can have a fast car go around the racetrack with an automated driving system faster than any of us can drive. Maybe the top 5% of Formula One drivers will probably drive that car around the track faster. But Audi's automated driving technology 5 years back in our RS7 was nearly as fast as the F1 driver, and we are nowhere close. Like, we would be 50% slower than those people. Easily. So eventually, will anybody want to see a race series with a computer driving the car and no human being inside? Nobody will go to see. So that's the whole issue.
It's just like it's become like a video game only.
Yeah, they have a computer driving a bike now, and the bike goes around the circuit faster than Valentino Rossi. And of course, the computer can't fall down and die. There'll be no funeral and nothing like that. So all that element of risk will be gone. And nobody will. I don't want to spend 1 hour on Sunday watching 5 bikes run by computers go round and round the circuit. It's just meaningless, That's the problem. Once it becomes totally driverless, what will happen to motorsport? It will just be a computer game. You may as well just be playing a computer game at home.
True.
Well, let's get to some very, very basics right now. Say an ordinary person, or anybody for that matter, looking for a car. What should they look for a car when they're buying a car? Shri, what is your advice?
Sanjay, I think it depends upon your family size and what you're looking at, the area you're going to commute, what kind of journey you want to undertake. So there are a lot of things. I mean, now, of course, there are a lot of electric cars which have come in, but then these cars are suitable only to commute within the city, and probably they'll run for about 150, maximum 200 kilometers before they need a recharge. So you can't really take them outstation because the infrastructure is not available in India. So if you're planning to do outstation trips, then electric car is not good. But it's good. You get electric SUVs also now, which are pretty good, like the Tata Nexon or the HGM. There are a few which are quite good, but and this is the future. If you have a larger family, if you want to take a lot of luggage, then SUV is your best bet in India because the roads are pretty bad. You have speed bumps, you have potholes. So a SUV probably would work better in these conditions. And then you have quite a few of them. In SUVs also, you have the smaller SUVs, you have the mid-size SUVs, and you have the large SUVs. So depending upon the family size and how much of luggage you have, what kind of roads you have in your city, you can decide on this. If you have a smaller family, then of course you can go in for the smaller hatchbacks. The hatchbacks are pretty popular now because you can accommodate 4 or 5 people, and then if you have more luggage, then with the hatchback you put the back seats down, and then you can take quite a bit of luggage with 2 people. So there are different combinations right now. And so a person's requirement, depending upon his requirement, he'll have to select the car. Of course, you'll also have to look at the deal, value for money, resale value, and these are also things that you look at before buying the car. So there are a lot of things to consider. And of course, there is a very big second-hand market for those who can't really afford the new cars. And quite a few of the dealers give you quite good deals. So you could even look at these. So there is a lot of variety out there. It's not like in the
Great.
olden days where you just had 2 brands. There was either Ambassador or Fiat.
And you book them and then wait for months to years for the car to be delivered. No? Yes.
And after it's
So we-
delivered, you push them also. You push them also
Yes.
many a time because they don't work that well.
Yeah, I pushed the Fiat many times. Half my
My
muscle
dad
came
also-
from Fiat only.
My dad also had a Fiat which, the door used to open from the front, that the old one, the
Yeah.
11,
Yeah.
I think it was called the 110, and that I pushed it umpteen number of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Cyrus, when it comes to choosing a car, what should one look for in engine and power and torque and other stuff?
In India, you
Yes.
find the biggest SUV that with the smallest engine that gives you the best fuel efficiency. What else? Because there's nowhere to go fast. There's no proper roads everywhere.
Right.
And that's what I would buy, given I would buy a Toyota Fortuner and drive it around. But now I would just wait for electric SUV from any of these big manufacturers and just drive that around. I hardly go anywhere. My longest trip is like 100 kilometers. So, electric suits me fine, yeah. Sri Ganesh drives a lot out of town because, I think the roads in Karnataka are better than the roads in Maharashtra by far. But here the roads are just in a pathetic state, yeah.
But you have the
We have
Mumbai-Pune
used it.
highway, Cyrus. You have the Mumbai.
That's the only, but
Mumbai
now there are
highway,
speed
yeah.
cameras everywhere. Everywhere there's a speed camera, and then they wait and they charge you $1,000 if you go over 120.
That is true.
Even if you do 121, they catch you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I realized it's not worth buying these fast cars in India. I'm
I
a
agree.
consultant for a few of the companies. I travel to Germany quite often, every 6 months, in fact, before the COVID started. And then there I used to hire good cars. I used to hire the BMW M5 or a nice Mercedes. And then you have the Autobahns where there's no speed restriction, so you can reach 300 kilometers per hour. And in India, the problem is even if you have a good car, the roads are not there. And if you have a good road to drive in, then people don't have the traffic sense. They suddenly change lanes and then it's very dangerous to go fast. So all these things don't make it worth having a good car, a fast car in India. So it's probably better if you want to drive fast to go abroad, hire a car. It's much cheaper. And then you get a nice thrill and nice driving experience.
True.
So Shiv, talking about the SUVs, so it looks like that for Indian roads, it's only the SUVs which fit. So cars are not really meant for Indian roads.
Not entirely
How to
true.
choose how to
Sanjay.
select an SUV, what to look for in an SUV.
I think for me, the most important thing would be that I'm looking at a big engine. So when I'm really off-roading and getting into whether it's Ladakh or Himachal and stuff, or even Uttarakhand for that reason, I'm not looking at rocks or riverbeds that are going to stop me. I don't essentially need to put the 4x4; it'll just move automatically because the engine's powerful enough. And unfortunately, now they come out with all smaller engines. I think even the Fortuner now has come out with I think a 2-liter engine or a 2.2 as compared to a 3-liter engine.
2-liter engine, yes.
And it's the same story with the Endeavor now. I don't know. Money seems to be going from 30 lakh to 40 lakh, 45 lakh, and the engine sizes are coming down. Of course, it's got a lot to do with also the norms for the cars and pollution levels for higher engines and stuff like that. But I think they're looking at economics, the bigger manufacturers, in terms of the cars are selling, the SUVs are selling, they bring in a 3-liter engine, sell it for a couple of years, and post that reduce. Most of them are starting to come with more, compressed fabric, plastic, reinforced plastic, so to say. So the moment you have an impact, you don't have a bad crash, so to say. A lot of it is resistant to the crash. But as far as the engine is concerned, it's much, much smaller. So I'm much happier with my 5 or 6 year old Endeavor with a 3.2-liter engine, not essentially having to worry about even using my 4x4. I mean, I've done 6 people in the car with packed luggage, and we've done, where were we? We were in Uttarakhand, sorry, and top rainy season. We're on a single road. I just put the anti-skid zone for the car, and it just climbed up the hill absolutely decently, no skidding. The traction was beautiful. I mean, these are very small essential things that you look at. So for me, it's definitely a bigger engine. But when you're looking at people who want to generally buy cars, I think obviously the budget is one of the main things that people are looking at. So you can get an SUV for about 18 lakh. You can get an SUV for 22, 24, 25, and 30 lakh onwards, then keeps climbing. The other thing that you're looking at is the capability of the car itself. If you're looking at a car that gives you a certain capability and safety in 18, you'd rather spend a little more in terms of 21, 22 to get additional features on the car in terms of the terrain that it can travel on. I mean, it's a small technical thing, but for people who are tight on a budget, they would still feel the feasibility to stretch a little bit to have that comfort of an additional feature on the car.
Right. So
Shivraj, you go for that new Land Rover Defender.
Sorry,
that new Land Rover Defender.
I was very keen, but things are damn expensive here.
It is damn expensive.
I think
it's a consummate off-road mobile.
Yeah,
you saw
right.
that Land Rover Defender.
Yes.
Yeah, but the Mahindra Thar also supposed to be good. I mean, it looks good, and it's
I drove the car.
and it's
I drove the
affordable.
car also. But that engine is damn underpowered, and if it gets stuck in the mud, finished.
That's exactly what I was saying.
It makes a whining noise, and wheels stop turning. That's it. Finished.
One of the great off-roaders is Gurkha, by a company called the Force,
Force Motors.
And Force Motors, and because it's got a Mercedes-Benz engine, and it's got one of the best 4x4 wheel drives. It's a very underrated, unknown brand, but it's supposed to be, I think, when it's compared car to car, it's probably the best off-roader available in the Indian market.
Most powerful.
Most powerful also, or most powerful too. We always talk of design and engine and economy and stuff, but in India we have still not started talking about safety features. Though the manufacturers are coming up with safety features, but we don't really talk much about that. We don't really look for safety features, which should actually be a very, very important thing to look for. So what safety features would you look for, Shri Ganesh, in a car?
Sanjay, I think,
or recommend others too.
Safety features in India can be problematic because you have a lot of safety features like lane assist, then you have radars where the car has automatic braking. But all those features, if you put it on in India, the car keeps stopping because there's hardly any gap between the cars, and you're not moving at more than 20 kilometers per hour. In fact, my son-in-law, he got a car. He got the Volvo. He got the Volvo. He bought a Volvo, and then it's got feature that if you go close to another car, it automatically brakes. And it was such a nuisance, he couldn't put it off. So the car kept braking. And then finally he got so fed up, he sold that and bought another car. So this is a double-edged sword. So you can have a lot, because the Volvos are one of the safest cars.
Yes.
They're the ones who made the 3-point seatbelt technology, and they're touted to be among the safest cars. But then, if you have all these features, and then if you don't have proper roads or proper traffic, then it's of no use. And if you're going very slow at 20 kilometers per hour, then it doesn't really work. So safety is good when you're going at higher speeds. And this is something, of course, compulsory. There are a few things necessary like seat belts and airbags. But apart from that, very advanced features like automatic braking or lane assist. In India, I don't think it makes much sense. Cruise control, all these things don't really work very well.
True, you're very right about that. Yes, the basic mechanical safety features is what one should be looking for, but all the electronic safety features, would not be of much use, and maybe actually be, more of a hindrance in your driving pleasure than of any help. That's what are the other things to look for in a car, Cyrus, from the say point of view of an average car buyer?
I think all the cars should have airbags. I think they all have airbags now, but just 5 years back, it was like a luxury item. But the airbag will save your life in a frontal collision at 70, 80. Without the airbag, you'll get plastered on the steering wheel. So I think they should all have airbags by law, and if possible, a side airbag, because a lot of collisions in India from the side, and people driving erratically, half asleep, truck driver, and things like that. So otherwise, I think everybody wears a seatbelt today. And now today, even if you buy a Maruti, it has that very irritating buzzing sound that comes on when you don't wear the seatbelt, that reminds you wear the seatbelt. And seatbelt is like the primary safety mechanism in the car. So that's why on the airbag it was always written SRS. So SRS is supplemental restraint system. It's not the primary. Primary one is the seatbelt. The seatbelt prevents you dying in car accidents most of the time. Remember that Diana died in first class Benz because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. The guy in the front was wearing a seatbelt, and even though they cracked the car in the front, the driver didn't die, and the guy in front didn't die, the bodyguard who then told the whole story. And these two behind on the backseat, I don't know what they were doing, but the seatbelt was not on, and then either they bumped them off or whatever, but then they died. So I think they would have been alive, yeah, if they were wearing seatbelts.
So very rightly said that seatbelt is the main.
The airbags don't open up if the airbags
yes.
don't open up if you're not wearing the seatbelt. So that's something which is very important.
So seatbelts provide 30% protection against frontal impact, frontal collision, and the airbags they provide only additional 10% protection against frontal impact. And as Shri Ganesh rightly said, the airbags will not deploy until your seatbelt is on, because if the airbags were to deploy, the seatbelts not being on, they will cause more damage to you than protect you. So it's very, very important to always have seatbelts on, even for a very short drive also. If you're going to just neighborhood market also, you must always wear the seatbelt, because that is the main safety feature. And the airbags will come on only if the seatbelts are on. And the seatbelts these days are very, very well advanced, and with their adjustability or pre-tensioner, and the SRS airbags, again, they deploy only if seatbelts are on. So together they provide about 40% of safety against any fatal frontal impact. But you still have to be very, very careful in the way you drive. What are the other safety things in the design of the car? In the frame of the car, how they're mechanically they're designed. Shivraj, you were talking about the crumple zones. I think you were talking about them.
Yeah, exactly. So so the engine always comes with a crumple zone. Let's say you have a chassis which safety feature which takes care of the entire engine from the base down, and then you have crumple zones in the front of the engine and on the side, so that the impact of the accident is minimal in terms of damage to the engine. You get these vehicles today which have crumple zones even for passengers and co-passengers at back. So I mean, the high-end cars, of course, you're looking at 40, 50, 60 lakh onward cars. They all come with crumple zones. So the impact and the safety for the passengers inside is kept to the maximum. But when you're looking at regular cars that you're buying at 15, 20 lakh rupees for, daily commute reasons, I mean, the only safety things that you can get in any kind of design, I think, is the fact that you have seat belts and that you have airbags. And I don't think you can get anything else besides that. When you're talking about features on vehicles, I think Mahindra, if I'm not wrong, has, let's say, for a Scorpio or an XUV7, that 700 that they're coming out with, I think it's in excess of some 40, 42, 44 features that they have on, not all safety features, but, these are all gizmos which attract people saying, well, this has got 4 additional cameras, it's got a camera under the lights, it's got camera under the rear view mirrors and stuff. So these to lure people to buy more of the gadgets. I'm not saying Mahindra does all brilliant stuff over there, but a lot of their sensors from time to time don't work within a year's time. But for an initial thing, I think it attracts a lot of people.
Yes,
Shivraj, do you have a
it's-
camera
it's-
behind your SUV? You have a
Sorry?
camera behind your SUV? Because
Do I
you
have a
can't
camera
see
behind?
when you reverse a SUV, you cannot see what's behind actually. So do you have a camera behind your SUV?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Dhawan does
other
there.
People used to have cameras and the people used to run over kids and dogs and things when they used to reverse the SUV because you could never see behind.
So you're right. The earlier Fortuner that I had many years ago didn't have that features. I had to get it installed, and I didn't manage to get it
Yeah.
done. It's not as brilliant as getting it pre-fitted, company fitted, but then as an accessory, did the job. So
So when I had my old Scorpio, it did not even have any sensors. So we had to install a mirror at the back, a downwards looking mirror to be able to see what's
I
behind the
remember
leg, And then in the Fortuner, there were those ultrasonic sensors were there, but there's no camera. But the cameras actually, the reverse camera is a very, very essential, useful tool to have. It's
Yeah,
not
and
a
you
frill.
think
It's
about
actually
That
yes.
reverse camera probably costs 2,000-3,000 rupees. I don't know why every
Yes.
car doesn't have it. It's a
Exactly.
small little thing like that. It costs nothing.
yes.
It has
So
less
that's a very,
technology.
very, very, yeah,
2,000 rupees
yeah.
mobile phone. Yeah.
So idea is to tell people here that when you're trying to choose a car, you must also look at the safety feature because that's very, very important. You would not want to get hurt on the road or, God forbid, have a fatality on the road. No. So look at the safety feature of the car and the form of the car's design, where the framework of the car is a very, very important safety feature, which people don't look at. It's not really selling point because they're not aware of it. So what kind of framework the car has, because that is what takes the first impact. And then what saves you, the impact from 2002 is the things like crumple zone, the seat belt, and the airbags. Besides the safety feature, there are other things like wheels and the kind of drive. Do they make a difference in the way you drive and the safety also? That what kind of wheel you have, that alloy wheel, large with the broad wheels, or there are what is the wheel size and all? Does it make a difference, Ganesh?
The alloy wheels basically are mainly for show, and you have different kinds of alloy wheels, and you can select them. But now most of the cars come with alloy wheels. Most of the higher-end cars come with alloy wheels. But the driving pleasure actually depends upon the weight distribution. So if you have like a 50-50% weight distribution, then the car is very well balanced. So you don't have understeer or oversteer, especially when you're driving fast. The steering is very important, so that when you're taking sharp turns, then you need to be true to the steering. And cars that have understeer or oversteer, you can really hit the curb. So that is another aspect that has to be considered. In that way, I find that the BMWs are quite good. The weight distribution. I have a E60, which is the BMW 5 Series. It was one of the original ones with the 50-50 distribution, and that is really a pleasure to drive. The steering is so true, and many of the other cars like the Mercedes, there is some amount of understeer. So again, that adds to your driving pleasure, the weight distribution.
But this
No, I
is
have a
more
question.
important when
I
you're
have a very
driving fast and cornering
Sanjay,
fast.
I have a very important question. Now,
Yeah.
suppose now we were all probably, I don't know about you, you must have been rich when you were young, but I think I was pretty much broke, yeah, when I was young. So, do you think that if we had better cars when we were in college, we would have picked up more chicks? It's a very important question. Most of the car market is dependent on this, yeah.
Yes.
So I'll ask Sri Ganesh. Sri Ganesh, today,
Yes.
see, suppose you were single, okay, and you have a nice bottle green. I've seen your British racing green Jag. Do you think you could pick up more chicks in your Jag or in a Ferrari?
The only chick I take in my car is my wife. So
He's playing it safe.
Yes.
Yeah, she's watching.
I'm being politically correct.
Politically correct. So, Shiv, how would you answer this question? No?
I think as a growing up person, when you're talking about 14, 15, 16 years old, or even 17 years old, I probably would have taken a super bike or something, and probably would have felt I might have got lucky with a chick on
Motorbike is
that.
different because they
Yeah.
have to hug you and sit. Okay. So
Yeah,
that's
so
very
if
yeah.
it's feeling with you, you might as well enjoy the ride.
Once you open that throttle, either they hug you or they fly off the back. Yeah. So there are certain inherent advantages to having a big bike,
Yeah.
which only those people who have ridden that bike will understand. Yeah, that's one of them, Because when you
Right.
accelerate hard in the car, she just goes back in the seat. Yeah, nothing happens. But when you accelerate hard in that on that bike, she has to hug you.
Exactly.
Don't you think, Ganesh?
So that's why Shiv has got super bikes and he's got SUVs, So,
Yeah.
so he's got best of both the worlds,
Yeah, the only
Yeah,
advantage
that's
of the
great,
SUV when you were growing up is that front seat would go back down, become like a bed. Yeah, but otherwise nowadays all these things are pretty much useless for us now. We're 50 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
true.
So, coming
and
to
we used to
another
have black
aspect.
tints. Don't forget, my Fiat also had completely black tints. The tints were like this black. You could put your face against the glass and you couldn't see if there's one person inside or two.
Well, so now we have got laws against that,
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know what they're preventing.
Yeah. So coming to the question of how to drive, that's a very basic thing and maybe very common sense thing, but there are things which one needs to take care of. How to drive in a city, how to drive in a highway, how to drive on the
I
hills,
feel
off-roading.
that large percentage of our population is unfit to drive. Okay, and if they actually had to give a proper driving test like they do in the UK or even in Dubai, for example, three-quarters of the people driving on the road would not be driving. So when we shout and give the guy an MCBC and you say,
Yeah.
tell him, "So, kaisa gaadi chalata hai? The license kisne diya?" The fact of the matter is that he's actually unfit. Most of them are illiterate. They are unfit to drive. They have no concept of road sense or how to read a signal or nothing. They're just doing whatever they feel like. Okay, they're running in the middle of the road. They're riding the
True.
bike anyhow. They're coming down the wrong way. But problem is now, then that if you can't enforce this kind of law, because if you say that now this all the three-quarters of the country can't drive, then who will you sell vehicles to? And how will the politicians get voted back? If you say that you are an uneducated fellow and you can't vote also now, then the whole democracy will fail. Yeah, so we can't have that. The fact of the matter is that we are unfortunately having to drive and share the road space with people who are unfit to drive. This is the
In
whole
this condition, with those kind of drivers all around us.
incorrect thing to say, but most of the country is unfit to drive. Yeah, they're not fit to drive a car or a bike. They should be taking public transport or cycle. Even that's challenging. They cycle in the middle of the road anyhow, and then you have to keep trying to avoid the guy.
This is exactly what I was telling my kids, when I was teaching my daughter how to drive. I was telling her that you have to not only learn how to drive, right, you have to not only not commit mistake, but you have to be aware of others' mistakes.
Yes.
In India,
Never-
on the roads,
Yes,
something
never
will come from
underestimate
everywhere,
Human stupidity
Sanjay,
is
there are two
Human
rules
stupidity
for driving in India.
yeah.
Two rules. One is defensive driving. Okay, so you should keep looking out for the other vehicles and idiotic drivers and the mistakes they make. It's called defensive driving. So when you're driving, you're always on the lookout for these idiots on the road who are going to make mistakes. So you have to avoid them. So that's called defensive driving. And the second is to use your horn liberally, because there's all sorts of people getting in your way, and the only thing that they can understand is a horn being used. Of course, when you drive abroad, you don't touch the horn. I mean, there's so many trips where I literally not touch the horn because you don't need to, and it's abusive to use the horn. But in India, if you don't use the horn, you can't. Every 2 minutes or 2 seconds, you have to keep pumping the horn to get people out of the way, or that's the only way to drive. Defensive driving and use the horn liberally. And of course, its
There's
advantage
another.
is the bigger you are on the road, the better. The bigger the road presence.
Yes.
So that's why SUVs.
Yes.
The bigger
That's
the
also more a
SUVs,
Delhi
the
culture.
And I think the Desi SUVs do much better than the imported SUVs on that front.
True.
Yeah.
Because you're not worried about your car then. You're worried, the others have to worry about their cars. So
Yeah. So
I really
when we
miss
were
my Scorpio. I miss my Scorpio because when I was riding Scorpio, I didn't have to worry about anything at all. People would just give way. I had to just kind of keep going. So I was I was an aggressive, offensive driver then. But ever since that car went out and the Fortuner came in, I became more conscious of my car. So I had to be more docile on the road.
Sanjay, is this
So
being recorded? Is this being recorded or something?
it's being recorded, of course.
Because when we were 20 years old, we had different ways of entertainment. There was no Netflix Prime, and there was no mobile phone. There was no X Hamster also. There was nothing much to do. So now what to do? So fun for us was we used to fill a bag with eggs, and one of our friends used to have this really awful Mahindra Jeep, which the bumper was that looked like a railway track. So we used to just drive to the middle of the road and bump into taxis that didn't move out of the way and stuff, because nothing used to happen. That bumper was there in front, and throw eggs at people. That was fun for us. Today, that you'll be put in jail if you behave like that. But I'm sure, have you all gone egging as children? Don't egg random people on the road.
Unfortunately, not.
You can admit now. You've never
So
done any
Cyrus,
antisocial behavior.
and new laws are coming up, anti-egging laws, which will be applicable in retrospect,
You know what happened after the 1992 riots in Bombay? The cops and all toughened up and all. So, all our trips going out with the air gun or shooting the traffic lights and throwing eggs at people and all terminated, because then they would throw your ass in jail. So they got damn touchy after the riots. Before that, now Bombay was very nice and peaceful. You could egg people regularly. There had no problem with that. Or just follow somebody on a dark road and keep blowing the horn and all. Then that person starts running. So all these antisocial activities, I don't think you can do it in Noida and all because he might shoot you. But otherwise, in Bombay and Bangalore, I'm sure Sri Ganesh also done it, but he's not admitting. Shivraj,
So
you're from?
I'm
It's from
from
Delhi.
Delhi. I mean, I've grown up mostly.
I wouldn't try it in Delhi. You'll end up getting shot or something. Very dangerous.
Yeah,
They
now
don't give them a drink
crazy.
also.
Yeah, it's scary nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just not. I avoid driving much in Delhi, and I don't blow the horn at anyone because you never know. Some crazy bugger will come out with a gun and shoot you.
Yeah, that's true.
So Shiv, you are fond of hills and all those terrains and all. So what is special about driving on the hills? What care a person needs to take? What are the things to be kept in mind?
So I'm headed off to Ladakh on a 15-day trip in about 2 weeks' time, taking some friends of mine who've never been to Ladakh. And the idea was, they drive an SUV, but they don't have right now the inclination to take their own SUV. So I'm like, I'll take mine, and we can take turns driving and stuff like that. I think driving the hills is very different from driving on the highways anywhere in the country, and I'm sure both Sri Ganesh and Cyres would agree with me in terms of, I'm sure you both have driven in the hills. I think the most important thing to take care is to know that you need to get from point A to point B in a certain period of time, because you don't want to be driving in the hills in the dark. It's not safe at all. So what's important for you is to know how long it's going to take you to reach from point A to point B. And you normally are looking at 5 to 6 hours. Sometimes the journey can be 8 to 10 hours, depending on the kilometers you're doing. it's very important for the driver to know exactly his overtaking period with the next vehicle. Invariably in the hills, I think within 30 meters or 35 meters, you have a turn coming, and you need to react quickly. If you have space open to, shift your gears and overtake, if not, the turn's coming. And invariably, you have your children sitting with you or friends sitting with you who are going to pass a remark and say, damn, you're really driving crazy today. So it's very important for you to be driving and overtaking at the right time, and timing your overtakes very, very carefully. Your children are watching. I mean, my son is invariably, and he's like, Dad, come on, that wasn't fair. And if I do that, you won't let me drive again, and I wouldn't let him drive again. So I think driving the hills is very, very important to be a complete driver. I mean, you can do it for fun. I mean, I do it for fun because I've been driving a car since I was 9 years old, and so I know what safety means, and I've done all stupid things by the time I was 16, 18. And I've become more mature over a period of time, and you don't do any of those stupid things anymore. But still, there's always a moment when you think, "Damn, I shouldn't have done that." When you're driving on the highways, invariably you end up on every trip thinking, "I shouldn't have done that on that particular day. I could have avoided it." But there are some risks that you take. I would say keep it to the minimal.
Yeah, and another thing about driving on the hills is that you have to follow your lane exactly.
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
to stick to your lane very, very strictly because there is not much space to even cross the other vehicle. So if you do not stick to your lane and do not stick to the curb, you're likely to have problems over there, and that's something in which one has to pick up, and also be fully aware of the traction that is available in the vehicle. You of course will be driving at much lower gears at higher RPMs, and you will be in good control of the vehicle. That's and you can know your vehicle very, very well. Shiv, contrary to what you said about the nighttime driving on the hills, I discovered that nighttime is actually better and safer because there is not much traffic, and you can actually, if there's a road, so hills where there is a road and the area and you've been there, then driving at nighttime on the hills is much better than during the day. It's tougher in the daytime. A new route, new terrain, or a rough or a place where there's no road, then of course it has to be in the daylight. Then you should not be venturing in the dark. But in a familiar place, at nighttime really works very, very well.
That I agree. I mean, you're able to cover more distance in terms of the vehicle coming in from the front. You see the lights, you don't see the lights, and it gives you that advantage of speeding up and being able to cover more distance. I agree on that part of it. But you always need to keep a couple of things in mind in terms of weather, landslides, rock falls, wildlife animals, and for whatever reason, if you do get stuck due to a landslide, if you're driving at night, it can be terrible. It can be terrible. I've known friends who've been stuck on the Manali route for 3.5 days, and they had nothing to eat with them. And fortunately,
so those are the very, very important things that what season you're going on the hills is very, very important.
Yeah.
Rains immediately after the rains is probably not the best time for you to go. Once you go, well after the rains or before the rains, those are the times when it is safer, and the visibility is also better because weather is much more clear. Going in winter time is also a better idea, but of course you have to avoid snow. So. Cyres, you have driven on track. I've seen the pictures of driving on Buddha circuit. How is that different? How does that feel?
Driving a car on track is very different from driving it on the road because you have to follow a track line. So you can get the fastest speed round the corner. So on the straight, everyone can floor the accelerator. The point is the guy who goes fastest around the track is the one who goes fastest around the corners. And on a bike, it's the person who goes around fastest, the one who's least afraid of dying or getting injured. So at least it's not like that in a car. But that's why I'm very slow on a bike on the track as compared to everyone else, because I'm extremely afraid of dying or getting injured. But in a car, nothing much will happen, because cars have roll cages and all the track cars. So it's unlikely that you can seriously get injured. It can happen, but then you have to go really crazy. But yeah, driving on the track is different from driving on the road. I think everyone should have access to a track. so they can go crazy there and not do any craziness on the road, which I see people doing all kinds of weird things on the road and driving at 300 kilometers on the ceiling and all. They should just go to the track and do all this. Yeah.
True.
That's a very, very important thing which you said, Cyres, that
I've been on
if
the
somebody, yes, Shiv.
Sri Ganesh, you share your racing track
I've been on the
experience.
track also. Yeah.
Yeah, Shiv.
In fact, I'm part of the Mercedes-Benz inner circle. They have something known as the inner circle, and they do drives. So you can go for these drives, and I had the occasion of going for 2 drives. One was when they launched the AMG GT in the US. They had an event in Palm Springs, and there's a private track in Palm Springs. Very beautiful place. And then there we had an occasion to drive, and there were Formula One racers also who kind of trained us. So it was fun. The other was when I had an opportunity to drive on the winter track on snow and ice. This was in a place in Austria called St. Michael's, where there's a winter track, and then you get special wheels, and then it's nice because you can do a lot of drifting on ice, and that's a lot of fun when you drift on ice, and also you do slaloming, and there are a lot of different exercises that they make you do. So that's a lot of fun. It's different from driving on the road.
Great, and of course, a very important thing which Cyres said is that if you want to try those thrills and all, better go to track. And now, fortunately, in India we do have a track in Greater Noida, Buddha Circuit, and people can go and for some payment can have that kind of an experience too. So it's better to play safe on the road. We're coming to the end of our show, and to wind up the show, I'd like all of you to give your final message to the audience, starting with you, Shri Ganesh. What is your final message to the audience, when it comes to passion for car or for driving?
Follow your passions, and it's always nice to do something that you always wanted to do, because that's what fulfills you in life. But always be safe. So safety is first, and be safe not only for yourself, for others also, for your family. When you're driving, don't be rash. You can be fast, but don't be rash.
Great. Shiv, what would you say?
I'd say keep the kid in you alive. If you don't have a passion for anything in life, you really don't exist. You're just living. You're not feeling anything. You're not alive, really. To the hills. So if you don't have a passion for anything in life, it can be anything. It can be just a morning walk. If you're not passionate about anything in life, you might as well be a vegetable. So keep the kid in you alive.
Great. Cyres, your final words for everyone.
It was great being with all of you today. And next time you have a show like this and all, you call us back.
I think we should have a part 2 of this on motorbikes. This was for the cars.
Some more controversial statements.
And I have a good mind to hold a show on motorbikes next week, and have not just guys but have some girls as well in the show, because I see a lot of girls who are riding very well. Yes.
Call that Niharika Yadav and all. She'll come on.
Yeah, Niharika is there in Delhi.
Yes.
So
Great having you.
You seem to be a biker. What are you riding?
So I ride a Ninja ZX10R.
So I had 2 ZX10Rs earlier.
Okay,
I've had
so
21
this is remapped there.
Right.
So great. So I think we're going to talk about the motorbikes on the next show next week with 3 of you and some more guests. And thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you, Shri Ganesh. Thank you, Cyres. Thank you, Shiv. It was great talking to you. And yes,
Thank you,
the
Sanjay.
child in us, the boy in us should actually stay alive. So that brings me to the end of the show. And my final message to everyone would be, fine, you follow your passion. But as Shri Ganesh also said, safety comes first. When it comes to machines, vehicles, driving on the road, keep it in mind that safety first, never compromise on safety. Keeping safety in mind, you can have thrill, you can have fun, you can enjoy yourself. So happy driving, safe driving to all of you. I'll see you again next week, next Friday, same time in the same show. Until then, bye-bye, good night, namaste.
Thank you. Thanks, Sanjay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Shri.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Cyres.
Thank you, Sanjay. Bye, Cyres. Bye, Shiv.
I welcome all of you to IBM TV and to this show, which is Dr. Dhawan's live chat, and I'm your host, Dr. Sanjay Dhawan. I'm an eye surgeon practicing in New Delhi. The Life Chat is a show which talks about any and all aspects of life, any subject, anything that concerns the life or it improves its quality is what we will be talking about. How to plan for it, how to prepare for it. So we'll be talking about all of this. Looking forward to seeing all of you every Friday night, 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Indian time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste.